Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1583.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. I'm revved up and so excited to share with you today a very special guest by the name of Kelley Earnhardt Miller. She's calling in from Mooresville, North Carolina. You better buckle up. We're going to have some fun here. Kelley Earnhardt Miller is part owner and general manager of JR Motorsports and is considered one of the most prominent businesswomen in NASCAR today. She oversees the company's race team, management team, and business ventures for her brother, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Yeah, that guy. The daughter of seven-time NASCAR champion Dale Earnhardt, Kelley graduated from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte with a BA in Business Administration, a multiple award recipient. She was named in 2015 as one of the Sports Business Journal's Game Changers Women in Sports Business for her impact on the motorsports industry. Her new book, titled Drive, offers 9 important lessons learned about winning in business and in life, given not as a formula for greatness, but as insight from a fellow traveler on a journey that is sometimes difficult, sometimes painful, unexpected, or confusing, but it's often exhilarating and joyful. We'll be back to talk with Kelley in just a minute, but first a word from our valued sponsors that make Cars Yeah possible. So stay in your seat, keep your belts buckled, your helmet on, because we're going for a fast ride today. Sit tight. When it comes to your vehicles, things can get a little messy. Rain, snow, salt, mud, dirt, and everything Mother Nature comes up with can hurt the finish of your vehicles, both inside and out, like that bird on the branch up above your car. I'm not worried though, because I've used Covercraft products on my ride since 1975. That's right, since 1975. Today, Covercraft offers you a total solution for vehicle protection. They make the best fitting, finest made car covers in the world and offer a wide variety of materials, colors, and options that protect your paint and the interior, whether your car is inside or outside. Plus, they keep your car cool when it's parked in the sun. Live where it's really sunny all the time? Lucky. Covercraft covers and sunscreens are the best. If you've got pets, messy kids, messy in-laws, just plain messy friends, Covercraft seat covers are the perfect fit and perfect solution for keeping your seats looking new. They're easy on, easy off, and they're easy to wash too. And don't forget Covercraft's custom fit floor mats and trunk liners. Plus, they're very handy seat back organizers. They are must-haves for all your vehicles. Your car, your truck, your van, or whatever you drive will say thank you. And I've got a deal for you. If you use the code YEAH120, that's YEAH120, at covercraft.com, you can get 10% off your Covercraft order. Just go to covercraft.com, check out all the products they have to protect your vehicles, use the code YEAH120 at checkout, and get that 10% discount. That's covercraft.com and use YEAH120 at checkout. Covercraft, they've got you covered. So, what do you do after running a race team for 27 years with over 100 podiums, multiple Daytona wins, and a win at Le Mans? Well, if you're a racer and the Racers Group team owner Kevin Buckler, you start Adobe Road Winery. It's located in Petaluma, California, and he and his team have created a winning combination with the Racing Series, 4 ultra-premium red wine blends that are in a class of their own. Like racing, these wines comprise of art, precision, engineering, science, wrapped in a whole lot of fun. You can choose from 4 blends titled Redline, Apex, Shift, and the 24. Today, I'm going to talk about Shift. This wine was awarded 93 points by Robert Parker's Wine Advocate. It's balanced and spicy with dark blueberries and a cigar aroma. The unique bottle shape features a vintage-inspired metal gated shift back with carbon fiber, and the cork is topped with a 5-speed shift knob. That's right. There's going to be some battles at the dinner table on who gets to keep the cork after this bottle has been enjoyed. The Racing Series is a delicious gift for the automotive enthusiast in your life, and I've got a deal for you. If you use the code CARSYEAH, all one word in caps, at checkout, you get $10 off any purchase of the wines from the Racing Series. Your wine ships promptly and arrives quickly right at your door. Use the code CARSYEAH at checkout and get $10 off your purchase from the Racing Series today. There's always a seat at the table for excellence with the Racing Series. Go to adoberoadwines.com and use the code CARSYEAH today. Cheers! Hey, Kelley, welcome to Cars Yeah. My friend, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
I am. I think I've been buckled up and ready to go most of my life. So today is no different.
Yes, from a family called Earnhardt, you've got motor oil running through your veins, no doubt. You know, before I get started, I always like to ask my guests this. And I don't want to throw you a curve, but I want you to tell us something that most people don't know about Kelley.
Oh, gosh. I think I missed that paragraph. I've made all these notes, and look at there. Something that most people don't know about me.
Yeah.
So most people may not know that I love to scrapbook. And so back in the day, in the late 90s and early 2000s, scrapbooking was really popular. So where you take your pictures and put them down on paper and decorate them and make a story out of it. And I started that with my oldest daughter, who's now 19. And I still do that today. I don't find quite as much time, but we plan 2 weekends a year with a group of about 10 women. And what's fascinating about it is most people say you literally sit at a table all weekend and do nothing but scrapbook. And yes, that's what we do.
You know, it's a really fun thing. And that's why I like to ask that question, because it brings another dimension to who my guests are. And you're such a multi-dimensional woman. I mean, what you've done and what you do every day. And then this new book we're going to talk about. I mean, I don't know how you have time to do any scrapbooking, but I find it fascinating. My in-laws, my wife's parents, we've lost both of them. One just 2 years ago, and we were going through a lot of their things, as you do when you lose family members and parents. And her father had done a massive amount of scrapbooking because they traveled all the time. They traveled the world, and dozens and dozens of volumes of these scrapbooks. And it was just, we sat there and cried and smiled and laughed and talked and all these wonderful things. And he would put all these little trinkets and things in there that were really fascinating. And he was a lifelong Marine, and you kind of don't think of a Marine doing scrapbooking, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but it brought out a whole nother kind of gentle side to him, and a really wonderful side. So those are mementos that your kids no doubt will keep of you and your life for years and years to come. Well, let's get on our journey here, Kelley. I want to start with a success quote or a mantra. This is some kind of saying that's been instrumental in your life, in your success. It's a nice way to get the tires smoking, since we're at with the Earnhardts at the racetrack today. So Kelley, grab the wheel.
Yeah. So this quote for me is just so simple. And for as long as Facebook's been around, this has been my little quote in my about on my Facebook, and one that I really cherish from the very beginning. And that's, don't worry about what you can't control. You know, so much easier said than done, but so peaceful and such a comfort when you can take the energy that you would spend on trying to figure out the who, what, where, and why. You know, no different in this environment that we're in right now with the COVID and whatnot, that, you know, we just get wrapped up in the why and how did it happen and this and that. And instead of spending, and where we could spend that energy finding a solution, resolving something, working towards something, you know, else that is within our control. So I love that saying, don't worry about what you can't control. Although, like I said, it's something that's way easier said than done.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll tell you, in the industry you're in, motorsports, talk about the possibility of things going wrong. There's a million pieces to a race before, during, and after. How have you applied that? And we're going to get into your book in a minute, but how have you applied that to what you do there at JR Motorsports? Because racing, oh my gosh, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of variables to what we do, and you know, that just staying true to that and pointing those things out in times of adversity when, you know, maybe you are, you know, having a hard time. I mean, really, this past weekend at Bristol, Monday night, actually, we raced and two of our cars were leading first and second, and one took the other out, essentially.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
It was a racing accident. racing, it was a hard racing accident for me at Bristol, but that's a perfect scenario of kind of working through that mantra of being upset, being mad, being frustrated, but really turning that into focus on it can't be undone. What you can do to control it later, is more the important part, and keeping that line of communication open between the two guys and looking at it from that angle. So, it just, it's something definitely that we have to talk through often in our sport because there's so many different variables.
Oh, it was such a heartbreak. And, for racing to finally kind of get back on the track after this shutdown that's happened, it was just like, oh my gosh. I know the drivers felt as bad as the fans and the team members and everybody else. Of course, the guys behind them love it, right?
Yeah. I mean, a car owner never wants to see two of their teammates, end up in that situation where you're excited for one because they're in victory lane, but you're frustrated and sad with the other because they had a dominant car and were right there to be contending with and then got taken out. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Let me ask you this before we get into a deep dive on this book called Drive. How has the pandemic affected you guys and your team? And how have you dealt with some of the things that we're all having to deal with this, of course? And is the team healthy? Everybody okay?
Yeah, we're all good. In the beginning of the COVID environment, we shut down immediately mid-March. And of course, there was a lot of anxiety and fear about what's going on, what's happening, why are we doing this? Why is it going to this level of kind of everybody staying home and not coming out? And so, a lot of those first couple of weeks were just spent in constant communication with our management group and so that they could then carry a message, down to their people to try to keep everyone, like I just said, to not worry about what we can't control, to really find some comfort and peace and communication. So I think that was really important during the whole process. But kind of as you got more information, as you become more comfortable with why we were doing things a certain way and the data that they were putting out that was supporting, the reasons that we needed to be home, we just kind of turned, okay, how do we work in this environment? And for a race team, it's kind of difficult because you can't literally take the cars home to your garage and work on them,
Right.
And that was really hard for our race team. We were able, fortunately, to keep people paid and to keep their benefits underneath them. But at the same time, they were like, what can I do? Because you're, giving me all this. I'm grateful that I'm continuing to be paid, but I'm not doing anything,
People aren't used to that.
They aren't used to that.
Not many people like to work and get paid for doing nothing.
To do nothing, exactly. And, there's a fair amount of our people that could continue to work and just, really being able to adapt and adjust right away on, okay, how are we going to support sponsors even though we're not on the racetrack? What can we do?
Right.
Our marketing and media team got together very quickly and outlined some different things that we could keep content on our social media and things like that. And so, yeah, it was, a lot of communication. That was just so important to stay in tune and to be able to easily adapt in a different direction as we teleworked and as our cars weren't on the racetrack, because that's what we operate around is racing and our sponsors and being able to provide services for them that, generate some value. And there really wasn't a lot of that going on. Everybody was in the same boat we were, concerned about what your business looks like.
Exactly. Well, I think if there's some silver linings that come out of this pandemic, it's people's ability to adapt and be creative and do different things. And it's been amazing. Absolutely. Yeah, what I've seen of people. And there's so many, and I talk to 5 people a week here on Cars Yeah, and the innovative thoughtfulness of people, not only for their employees, but for sponsors that we realize in racing, you can't survive without sponsors. I can't either. And how do you keep supporting them in a time where everything's different? So I'm happy to hear everybody's healthy, and I'm really excited that we are getting cars back out on the track so we can enjoy them. I can't wait for the days we can sit in the stands and cheer everybody on. Let's talk about this book, Drive, because that's really why I wanted to have you on the show. Our good friend Cindy Sisson, who introduced me to you, said, you got to talk to Kelley. This new book is fascinating. I love motivational books, business-driven books, and of course with a title, Drive, and coming from the family you come from, this is a killer winner book. So tell me, why'd you write it? Take a bit of a deep dive into what this book's all about.
Yeah, so starting this process about 20 months ago, we were in the midst of finishing Dale's book and really going to market with Dale's book, and I was talking to the publisher about some of those things. And she said, have you ever thought about writing a book? And I'm like, no, not really. Nobody's ever asked me if I was interested in writing a book. And I didn't think in my career and as a business person, I'm like, what am I going to write a book about? But I thought about it and I said, if I wrote a book, this is what it would be about. And I wanted the book to be about going through therapy, which I spent quite a few years, 3 to 5 years in therapy, trying to understand why I made certain decisions and how my family of origin and my childhood had an effect on me as an adult, and I really wanted to be a better wife and a better mom. And so I had to start dealing with all these internal struggles that were going on within me. So I said, I want to write about that relationship with my dad, because that was really at the core root of my issue, was the fact that our dad didn't spend a lot of time with us as kids. There were lots of sacrifices made. And growing up as an Earnhardt, everybody thought it was hunky-dory. Oh, your dad must have been this, and your dad, you got to be so proud of your dad.
Right.
He's the number one race car driver ever, so on and so forth. And it was really hard because so many times I wanted to say, yeah, he's a great race car driver, but I really struggled with him as a dad.
Right.
And so I wanted to write about that. And the book morphed. The publisher said, that's all well and good, but here's some other things that you should think about. And they said, you've developed into such a great business person. Why don't you think about some of the lessons that you've utilized between your business and going through therapy and the way that you want to treat people and do business, and write about that. And so the book is sort of part growing up Earnhardt and part lessons learned. And so there's a little bit of both in there. So I got to kind of kill two birds with one stone, I guess you would say.
Yeah. This must have been quite a bit of an emotional journey for you.
It was. The emotional part is just kind of stepping up and speaking out on it, because like I said, I've been in so many interactions with people wanting to tell me how great my dad was. And he was an amazing race car driver. We can all agree on that. And I'm so proud of that. So proud of our legacy and carrying that legacy on through JR Motorsports. But I always wanted to talk about him as a person. For me, my relationship with my dad was not as a race car driver. It was as a person. It was as my dad. And so I didn't relate to those people saying, oh, what a wonderful this he was, because all that's going through my mind is how we struggled. And so much more because we lost him and we had not been in a position for he and I to talk about that in our relationship, right, and to kind of move on from that. So I never got that chance to settle it with him, So so it was very emotional, just the courage to share it and the courage to speak out about it and what people would think. But like most things that I do, it's in a very respectful manner, and not to really tear anyone down, but just to share my experience.
Well, it's an emotional journey, and when it involves a parent, it's a whole nother thing. And I've had guests on the show who've talked about relationships with parents, good and bad, challenges and so forth. And I think as we become adults, we realized, our parents are just people, and they've got flaws. They've got great things about them. But when you add the impact of the Earnhardt name and the family and this whole legacy around all of it, that adds a whole nother bit of complexity. And I can't imagine for you to have everyone seeing you guys from the outside in, and then you being inside and realizing, things, like you said, weren't always so hunky-dory for me as a child. So I think you've taken a really brave step here, Kelley. Let's talk about a challenge, though, while you were writing the book, because I always ask my guests about a challenge, and maybe you want to relate some other kind of challenge, but the more important part of this is overcoming it and what you learned. I'll tell you, one of the things that I commend you for is the therapy, because for so long, the idea of going to therapy had this stigma about it, that there's something wrong with you somehow. And I've since learned very much different, that it is not about that at all. It's really about getting to know yourself, understanding what makes you tick and what pushes your buttons, good and bad and so forth. So I want you to take us into a challenge in your life in some respect, kind of walk us through that. But more importantly, what did you learn from it so you could move forward in a very positive way?
Yeah, the biggest thing, and I talk about it in my book in terms of letting go to move forward. And that challenge and that let go for me, was when we were contemplating leaving Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, Dale driving for them and our family business. Our dad passed in 2001. Dale was just in the early stages, being a cup driver and driving for the family business. Dad told Dale his every move. You do this, son, you do this, this is how this is going to operate. And Dale did it, to become a race car driver. And then when, he passed and then we were still at the family business, I actually came over to work for him about 6 months after my dad passed because I said, Dale, I don't know how you're going to navigate this. And he and I were always close as children because we were navigating life together with a dad on the road with a stepmom. Our mom lived 6 hours away in Virginia. So we were always kind of navigating life together. And I was kind of the mama hen taking care of things.
Yeah.
But making that decision to leave DEI in 2007, we made that transition in 2008. But the whole year of 2007, there was a lot going on in my world. Not just trying to decide and get comfortable with leaving Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, but the process of how we announce that and tell the world that, again, going back to that Earnhardt thing, the Earnhardt Jr is leaving the Earnhardt,
Right.
And so that was a really big deal. At the same time, I was going through health problems. I had a massive tumor in my pancreas. So I was trying to put a team of people together to start our business. And literally, I interviewed people in my hospital room. It's quite crazy. But
what?
Yeah, I was recovering from surgery but I couldn't let up. We had a timeline and I'm like, okay, I can do this. Hey, do you mind coming over to the hospital so we can talk about?
Oh my gosh. That's incredible. Wow.
It's quite crazy. But, that decision to move on and let go was a really big one because obviously the fan aspect of it and all of the legions of fans and followers about what they were going to think. If someone had to guess, people would have automatically guessed that we were going to go drive for Richard Childress Racing, which is who my dad drove for, right? The 3-car.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense to everyone. And we, ended up surprising people and going with Hendrick Motorsports, which we also had a family tie to. So it wasn't as much of a surprise and heartburn for us as it was for everybody else to go there.
Yeah.
But anyway, just trying to get right with the fact, would that legacy that we were trying to continue, can it go on when you're not underneath the family business and so on and so forth? And it did. And we've been very proud of that fact. From day one, I've always believed in your family, the legacy is the story and the way that you continue to hold up that reputation of those who came before you. So, the legacy are the children and the children that follow and the grandchildren and so on and so forth. Yeah. And so, we've been able to do that and stay in this business and overcome that big decision for what I thought, the world could have either crashed or luckily it continued to move on and we had a huge following and support.
Wow. What a story. My hat's off to you. That's just incredible. There's that Earnhardt blood. Keep the foot to the floor. Don't lift. Even if you're in your hospital bed recovering, you still got to run the bit. Man, you are incredible. Now I know why Cindy insisted that I talk with you because you are amazing. Well, listen, let's catch our breath, take a short break, thank our sponsors here. And we come back, I want to talk a little bit about maybe the passion you have for cars and obviously for racing since you work in it. And we're going to talk a little more about this book as well. So sit tight, stay buckled up. We'll be right back. My favorite collector car magazine is Keith Martin's Sports Car Market. I've been a subscriber for decades. Sports Car Market is the Wall Street Journal for enthusiasts and collectors. It's your monthly must-read, whether you dream of owning a collector car, maybe you have 2, or maybe you've got 200. Sports Car Market has been around for 31 years, and it's filled with valuable articles, intelligent write-ups, and the latest auction sales. Go to sportscarmarket.com and subscribe today. And don't miss my weekly podcast with Keith Martin titled Buy, Sell, Hold. It's the essence of collecting. We talk to the movers and shakers in the collector car world. Here's a couple deals I have for you just for listening here on Cars Yeah. If you use the checkout code Cars Yeah, you'll receive a 50% discount on your digital subscription at Sports Car Market. That's an exclusive offer from Cars Yeah. And guess what? Here's another deal. If you'd like to get the actual magazine, use the code BSH for Buy, Sell, Hold. That's code BSH, and you'll get $10 off your annual print subscription. That's right, $10 off. Both of these are exclusive offers here at Cars Yeah for Sports Car Market Magazine. Just go to sportscarmarket.com and get your deals today. Let's step away from the conversation and talk about our charity of choice here at Cars Yeah, America's Automotive Trust. America's Automotive Trust is a group of like-minded nonprofits that are working together to preserve and promote car culture across the country. Together, they provide scholarships and grants to aspiring technicians and restoration artists. They provide youth education programs and bring communities together through auto-related events, car shows, and drives. Among these nonprofits is TechForce Foundation, a great organization dedicated to solving the technician shortage that threatens the transportation industry today. By providing career development resources and increasing awareness and enthusiasm for the tech profession, TechForce is bringing bright young students into the auto, diesel, aviation, marine, motorcycle, motorsports, and restoration worlds. To date, they've awarded more than $10 million in scholarships and grants to tech students. And in times like these, I don't have to tell you how essential those techs are, keeping our delivery and emergency vehicles running and keeping America rolling. To learn more about TechForce or to make a donation to this cause, visit www.techforce.org. You'll be glad you did. All right, we're back, Kelley, and I want to have you maybe share a story with me that instigated a bit of a passion you have with racing. It's almost a ridiculous question to ask somebody like you, but you know what? You could have chosen to go a whole nother path, do something completely outside of racing. Obviously, there's a pull there for you personally, even though the life that you've been through. So is there a pivotal moment when you knew that, you know what, I'm kind of a car gal, kind of a racer?
Well, that's kind of a hard question when all I've known is cars, right? So, I mean, cars for me started watching, my dad race on the racetrack and going to the races. And, because motorsports and particularly NASCAR are so in tune to our OEMs, the Chevys, the Dodges, the Fords of the world, you automatically become a car person. I mean, we were a Chevrolet family through and through.
Mm-hmm.
My dad owned a dealership. He did drive Fords early in his career, 82 and 3, I think. And then from 84 on, which, I was a 12-year-old girl, all I've known is Chevrolet. So always been interested in cars and power and horsepower. Being a racer myself, I raced race cars.
Yeah.
And so anytime that you kind of have that desire to get behind a wheel of a powerful car, there's something about it, right? There's a passion for how they work and the power and where you can go with it. So I've always had an interest in that. I'll tell you a funny story. My most special car, my fondest memory is my dad went and bought me a junk Volkswagen off of one of our friends' junkyards. And I was probably 13, 14 years old. And we put a 8-ball shifter on it and some like floodlights that worked as the headlights. And he had a farm that had these logging roads. I mean, this was a piece of crap Volkswagen in the junkyard. And he had all these old logging roads on his farm. And I would tear those roads up with this Volkswagen. Just had a ball, running a stick shift, running Dale around. Once I ran into a tree and the running board, popped up to the door and wouldn't besides the tree. Dale couldn't get out once we got away from the tree. But just some fun stuff like that, with cars. Back in the day when, even before I was 16, I'd drive on the highway. I mean, just you can't do that these days. But 30 years ago, 35 years ago, you could get away with stuff like that.
Oh, wow. A little wildness in there. Well, I know you sent me a picture of a beautiful bug that was not the bug you just described, that I think you said your husband built for you. Was that kind of like a bring back a memory thing?
Well, so it is. And I always, loved Volkswagens. And so I had always told him that, I'd love a Volkswagen, a 72 Volkswagen. One of the things that my dad, when at his passing, that we were told that he was working on doing was getting each of us a car from our birth year. Oh. And so that always kind of stuck out to me. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have a car from your birth year? And the Volkswagen seemed like a natural fit, with that being kind of my first car, so to speak, that I tooled around in. So he spent many, many months searching for the right Volkswagen, and he and my kids gave it to me on my 40th birthday in 2012.
Oh, wow.
And it's a really cool car because it's like a drag racing Volkswagen. And you said it,
Yeah.
we're kind of standing in front of the wheels in the picture, but you could tell that it wasn't completely stock.
Well, no, it is not stock at all from what I can see. And I come
Yeah.
from VW history. My sister had a Bug. My son learned to drive when he was 8 years old in a VW Bug in 1973, actually. And I had a 67 Carmagia in high school that I promptly ripped apart and modified and put a bigger engine in and bigger wheels and stuff. But this car, yeah, it looks almost like a drag racer or something. It's got some very cool wheels on it. The back tires are definitely bigger than normal. So what's in the back of this thing that powers it?
Well, I wish I knew that, Mark. I wish I knew that. So, but it's a cool car. The wheels, the width of the rear wheels, are definitely drag racing tires. I haven't taken it anywhere drag racing, but it's a fun car. Unfortunately, it doesn't get driven as much because it doesn't have air condition.
Oh, okay.
And, so you've got that kind of early spring or in the fall when it feels great to drive it. And then when you have 3 kids like me,
Right.
it's kind of hard to load everybody up in the Volkswagen and tool down the road to do what you need to do, but,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, it's a really, really cool car and a special car to me for sure.
It's very beautiful. Yeah, I love the color too, kind of a burgundy color, which is
Yeah.
really, really nice. So could I qualify that as your first really special car?
Well, I have a few cars in my possession that 2 of them I got prior to that car as well.
Uh-huh.
I've got a 2007 Tahoe, so it's not a collector old car, but when Speed was broadcasting the races, they did this show called Payback.
Okay.
And it was celebrities paying back someone important in their life with a special vehicle. And so Dale was on the show and he had this Tahoe built for me.
Nice.
And it was my payback. And the license tag on it says my payback. It's kind of funny when I go to the gas station with it and people think that my payback, it's from a divorce. That's the first thing that people think of.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah. I can see that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then I get to explain, the car. And then I also, when my dad passed, they were building Camaro Intimidators.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they had built 83 of them. And when my dad passed, I was like, you know what, I really should get one of those. And so they built me an 84th one. And so I have that as well. It's a 2002 Chevy Camaro, and that thing is fun to drive.
Yeah, I'll bet. Sounds really cool. Yeah. Well, Kelley, I'm going to get in your brain a little bit here. I'm going to be your therapist. And you talked about going to therapy, so I'm going to be your therapist for just a minute here. I want you to tell me, if you were manifest as a vehicle, not what you want to be, but how you perceive yourself, your personality as a vehicle, what kind of car, truck, or motorcycle, or race car would Kelley be?
You know what? I'm going to say a 69 Chevy Camaro.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for one, because it's got power and I don't slow down.
No,
as
I don't get that impression.
Right. You can tell from the story of the hospital, right? That
Yes.
I just keep pushing through and keep moving through. So from a sports car perspective, to me, that's a meaty muscle. One, you're just going to push to the limit and power through whatever comes its way. So that's one of the reasons that I like it for sure. And, it's meaty. There's something to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's interest, and so I feel that way kind of about myself in terms of, there's a lot within Kelley to get to know and a lot of depth and character and whatnot. So,
I like it. That's pretty cool. Well, those cars were monsters anyway, and they had such a great stance. And that year of Camaro is one of my favorites. It's just super cool. Well, listen, we're into the what I call the last lap. It's when the white flag's out. You guys have been there on your team many, many times. The checkered is in the distance. I'm going to fire off a series of questions, ask you to give us some quick blips of that Camaro Intimidator throttle. So here we go. Would you share one of your personal habits you believe has contributed to your many successes in life?
This is going to sound funny, but I'm going to say being nosy.
Being nosy, no, that's good. That means you want to know about things. I love the way you put it.
I want to know how things work. I want to know the who's and what's and whys.
Yeah, I think it's great. How about if I could arrange for you to sit down and have a drink or a meal with anyone in the automotive industry or racing industry, living or deceased? Who would that be?
I don't know a name specifically, but I'd love to sit down with someone in the very beginning when they were building cars, the very first car that was built and the
Yeah.
thought process and going from horses and covered wagons to cars,
Yeah.
I think that'd be fascinating. I like to know how things work. I like to know, just where that foresight came and just looking ahead at what they were thinking through in a time like that is just fascinating to me.
Have you ever been to the Mercedes Museum in Stuttgart, Germany?
You know what? I have not been to the Mercedes Museum. I have been to Stuttgart, Germany, though.
Okay.
But we went to, is there a BMW museum there as well?
That one is in Munich.
Okay, no, I haven't been there. I think we were invited to go there. We went on a trip to Germany a couple years ago, and so some fascinating stuff there, especially for cars.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because being a woman, you might know this story. When you go to the Mercedes Museum, you go up, it's a beautiful museum, it's very unique, and you go up this elevator, and when you get out, they start at the history, and the first thing you see is a horse. A full-size stuffed horse.
Oh, wow.
There. And the idea, of course, is we went as a society, as a world, from a horse to a motorized vehicle. And did you ever know the story of Bertha Benz?
I do not.
Okay, I'm not going to share the whole thing here, but I have you look that up. It's there's a cool video that Mercedes-Benz did. I'm going to send it to you about Bertha Benz. I'll give you the condensed version. Of course, Daimler-Benz, Carl Benz, Daimler-Benz, the grouping, but Carl Benz, who built the first automobile, and there's some debate of who did the first one. But at any rate, his wife was quite an innovative and progressive woman back in the day, because back, of course, before the turn of that century, women were like, you stay in your place.
Yeah, right.
She actually took that first car with her son and went on a trip, like a long driving trip. And she broke down and figured out a way to keep the thing going. And it's a fascinating story about a woman who had a lot of, excuse the pun, drive and motivation and gumption and gut and spirit to get in this motor car and go driving. I'm going to send you the video, and I'll put a link to that video for you listeners that haven't seen it. It's a really cool video about this woman who was way ahead of her time. Of course, her husband was as well, developing the first motor car. But you're a little bit of a Bertha Benz, and that's a very high compliment that I'm paying you right now. I think you would enjoy that very much. How about the best automotive or racing advice from the perspective of how you work in racing that someone else gave you? What would that be?
Well, I'm going to say the best hands down automotive advice. I got two pieces, and they both happened when I was young, when I was, getting my license, 16, 17 years old. The first was I had a best friend. Her name was Jennifer, and her dad made us go outside to Jennifer's car, which was a little Honda CRX at the time. And we had to change, we learned literally to change a tire.
Oh, good.
I think that was so important back then.
Yep.
Is do now. But to know how to be able to do that, to use the jack and not be intimidated by that if you were, put in that position later.
Yeah.
And the other piece of advice was more about driving the car. And I've taught my kids this as well. And this sticks out to me between me and my dad was about if you drive off the side of the road, how to come back on. And so many accidents are created because people jerk the wheel back and then they end up in a tailspin or turning over or whatever, or head on into another car.
Right.
And it works. If, he told me, if you go off the side of the road, just steady it best you can, keeping on the side and, eventually getting yourself back on the road. Now, granted, you could hit a mailbox or two. It could happen.
Yeah, but better than hitting a head-on car.
It's so much better than jerking, not jerking the wheel when you run off the road. And so those two things stick out in my mind if you want to talk about just best advice.
They did a driving school here I had my kids go to at our local racetrack, and it was for young learning drivers. And that's one of the things they did. You brought your car. They had a place where they had some dirt and some soft sand. They had you drop two wheels off the side, and then they showed you what happens when you jerk back onto the road. And kids saw pretty quickly what happened. The car spun, or like you said, heaven forbid, went into oncoming traffic. The racetrack was a safe place for that. Or they taught them how to just gently back off the gas, regain control, and gently pull the car back on. And both my kids told me that helped them quite a bit later.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and of course I did with my daughter. We're going to learn how to change a tire today. Well, Dad, I'm going to break my nails. Well, yeah, that might happen, but at least they can get you off the road. So it's a great thing for parents to teach their kids. So wow, what a deal. How about a resource, a go-to for you? Is there one that you might like to share with us?
I don't have any particular resource that I go to, in particular. I just kind of use social media and as a guide, and there's so many things that you can find between your Facebook or your Twitter and your Instagram of things that people are sharing, that I tend to find. I just click through eventually and get to some great places and some good things to follow. So
yeah, there's a lot out there. Well, I'm going to also put on Kelley's show notes page JR Motorsports because their company website is very cool. There is so much to see there. Lots of fun eye candy. You can, of course, follow along with them and all their adventures and racing success as well. So check it out. We'll put a link to that on the website, jrmotorsports.com. JR Motorsports, it's a great place to spend a little bit of time. How about a book? Now, obviously, we want to talk about your book. Yeah, definitely. So where can people get a copy of this book?
Well, so you can go to kelleyearnhardtdrive.com and then all the links are on there where the book's available for sale currently, particularly in this environment when we've still got stores closed. Yeah. But the one book title outside of mine, because I just wrote it, so I haven't been recommending it for that long.
Okay.
But the one title that I just hands down recommend most people to read is The 5 Love Languages.
Ah, okay.
Have you read that, Mark?
I have not. I need to read that.
Okay. The 5 Love Languages, I think, and this probably stems from, going through therapy as well, and they have the 5 Love Languages for kids as well, is for you to learn your partner's love language or your children's love language or anybody in your life's love language. Because so often we have the wrong expectation of what our person's love language, and it just makes that relationship better if you learn how to love the way they want to be loved. So, for instance, some people like quality time, or some people like affection, words of affection. Some people like acts of service like me, and some people like gifts. So there's just all these different love languages. And when you learn how your partner or someone that you're trying to love works, it's just amazing kind of what opens up. So I recommend that book highly. And for your kids too, to kind of learn.
So this book is by an author named Gary Chapman. So are you telling me then if I read this, I can figure my wife out?
You'll get real close, Mark.
Will I? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
you'll get real close.
I've been married for 35 years. I thought.
Well, you're doing a good job. You don't even need to read it.
Well, I just do what I'm told. That's what my grandfather told me when I got married. I asked him when we got married. He'd been married 50 years when my wife and I got married. I said, "Hey, Grandpa, what can you tell me about marriage?" And he goes, "Oh, that's easy. Just do what she tells you." And my grandmother jabbed him and said, "Don't lie to the boy, Bill." And then he got serious and he looked at me and he said this, and I've never forgotten it. It was one of the treasures because I didn't know my grandfather that well. We lived so far apart, and he was a farmer, lived in Texas, and cattle and wheat and so forth. And he said, "Here's the secret, Mark. Do the best you can to always remember, be willing to give more than you ever expect to get back."
Absolutely, yeah.
And he said, if you both do that, you'll have a wonderful life like your grandmother and I have had. They had 5 children, something like 16 grandchildren, 22 great-grandchildren. They were married for almost 72 years, passed away within 3 months of each other. And so I've always tried to remember that, when I'm feeling a little selfish and say, nope, I'm willing to give more. But I'm going to pick that up. You can always treat it or teach an old dog new tricks. So I appreciate you recommending that to me. And of course, I'm going to put a link to Kelley's book. And guess what, listeners? Kelley is going to give away one signed autograph book to one of my very lucky listeners. If you go to carsyeah.com and click on the free book button, you'll get my book, which is an ebook called Fill Her Up, and your name will go into a hat, and she's going to mail you a signed copy of this book, which I think everybody should read. So I'll make sure I put a link to that. Kelley, thank you for doing that for our listeners today. All right, we're up to the checkered flag. Before I let you go, because I know you're doing a lot of interviews today, I'm going to buy you a very cool car today, Kelley. Any kind of fun toy collectible car that you might want to have, but there's a couple rules to this game. Think of me as a sponsor. I do have some restrictions when I'm going to be spending my money on you. You can't sell this car to buy a bunch of other toys with or fund your racing organization. So if you pick the most expensive car in the world, you're stuck with it. I want you to drive it. I want you to enjoy it. Could be a street car, could be a vintage race car, something fun. But here's the killer part of this question. It's the only one cool collector car you can have. That means those other cars you have to go away, or if you don't want to get rid of those, you get to keep one of them. What's it going to be, let's just say, for today?
Oh, gosh.
I know, it makes it hard.
It's a tough one. It is a tough one, but I'm telling you, my son and I have this car on our radar right now, and we've been telling my husband for months, probably years, that if we could just get one of these, we'll never ask for anything else.
Whoa,
okay.
That's a big statement.
Yeah. So it's a General Lee.
What? Oh my gosh.
We want a Dukes of Hazzard General Lee.
Funny. That's so funny, but it's such an iconic car. And
it is.
Yeah. And I watched that show growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's lots of reasons. I mean, I was, born and raised on the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
At the time for us, I mean, it was just a fun show.
Yeah.
And the orange that just jumps out at you. And obviously JR Motorsports, that's kind of our team color is orange.
Sure.
So
yeah.
automatically, and the horn. I mean, you can't have a General Lee without the horn.
Yeah.
That's funny. And the climbing through the window. My son, he wants to climb through the window to get into the car. Yeah. But our friend Ryan Newman, a fellow NASCAR driver, has one. And from time to time, we've borrowed it. And it's just a fun, iconic car. It's just fun.
Well, I've had dozens, if not hundreds, of fabricators on the show. I'm sure I could call a friend and have him build one for you. And we'll make sure, just for your son, we'll weld the door shut. So and he can't open those doors. He has to climb through the window.
Oh, we found a few for sale. Don't get me wrong, Mark. Are you still buying? Are you still paying?
Well, of course. I'm always paying. I bought over 1,583 cars now. So, yeah, I'm used to paying. So, I'll, if you find one, just send me a bill and I'll take care of it for you.
Let's see how that goes.
Yeah, well, checks in the mail, as they always say. Well, listen, Kelley, this has been a really fun ride. I'm so happy Cindy introduced us. I'm really proud of what you've done in your life and what you're doing for people. And this book is absolutely fabulous. Again, listeners, if you want to be able to win a copy of this book, just go online to carsyeah.com, click on the free book button. But you know what? Don't wait for it. I'm going to give you a link to go to the website. Get your hands on this because this book has some wonderful insights about how to get through your life better, stronger, more powerful as a person and a human being and a contributor to life. So check out Drive. I'll put links to Junior Racing, which is jrmracing.com, the website where you can get your hands on a copy of this book. Kelley, thank you for spending so much. Actually, before I let you go, I want to ask you this question. What's one last point of wisdom you might offer us before you drive off into the sunset, honking that horn on that General Lee?
Okay. Well, one of my favorite chapters in my book is about leading from the heart. It's chapter 13. Yeah. It's just, the part of me that runs on passion and intuition and care for other people, which is just really at the heart of who I am. And so I think that's what I'd leave people with is that, lead from your heart, let people get to know you, let people see your heart, do good on purpose, and let that kind of be your guiding light.
Absolutely. It's wonderful. Definitely a way we hope more and more people live their lives like that moving forward. Kelley, thanks for being so generous today with your time, your expertise, and for sharing your life with us today. This has been wonderful. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you down the road.
Sounds great.
Thank you. If you're listening to Cars Yeah, you've probably spent some time working on your favorite ride. But how confident are you working on your finances? You may be able to rebuild a fuel injection system, but can you decipher the details of a mutual fund? If you're like me, investments, insurance, annuities, budgeting, and other financial concepts may seem a bit daunting, but what if I told you there's a book that describes these subjects and more in an easy-to-read and a very humorous way? My friend Chris Kimball, CFP, a longtime sponsor and past guest here on Cars Yeah, has written that book, and it's titled The Saga of Ike and Penny, a couple's humorous journey through the confusing world of finance. It's a fun look at things you need to know. Everything from investing to effective ways to get rid of credit card debt, and it's probably the only book on finance with a VMAX on the front cover and a classic Mini Cooper on the back. The book's available at Amazon for just $10, and this book will dramatically improve the direction of your financial future. I gave copies to each of my children. All securities are through Money Concepts Capital Corp. Christopher Kimball Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp. Get your copy, The Saga of Ike and Penny, today.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.